Wait for my cue. And you're live.
Are we good, Jamie?
We're good.
Okay. This is Sheila Raymond on May 19th, 2021, and I call this meeting to order at 3:30 p.m. I'm going to start out with the roll call vote so we know who's present. So Chairperson Sheila Raymond present, Vice Chair Janet Smigelski,
Present.
Board Member Sam Campana.
Present.
Sheila Collins will not be attending today. Frida Hartman,
Present.
Fred Klein,
Present.
and Marna McClendon.
Present.
Great. First, I want to say that at the request of staff, I would like to change the order of today's agenda to move the director's report to item 3 and the patron comments to item 6. So go ahead and make a note of that if you would. And we'll start out first to see if, do we have any written comment, public comment, Amy?
There is no public comment.
Okay. So then the next order is to approve the regular meeting minutes for April 21st, 2021 meeting. Is there any comment or actions that we need to take?
This is Janet Smigelski. Unless I'm reading this wrong, I think the present area has incorrect information. It has chair, unless I'm saying anything wrong, it has Chair Sheila Collins, Vice Chair Sheila Raymond.
Yes.
So that needs to be corrected.
Thank you, Janet, for catching that.
You're welcome. Thank you. That's all I saw.
Great. Any other comments or adjustments? All right, let's do a roll call vote to approve the minutes for April 21st meeting. Sheila Raymond, aye. Vice Chair Janet Smigelski,
I with corrections.
thank you. Board Member Sam Campana,
Aye.
Frida Hartman,
Aye.
Fred Klein,
Aye.
and Marna McClendon.
Aye.
Great. Okay, so the first item on the agenda here is to Celebrate Scottsdale organizations. Doug Sidnor, friend of the library board member, will discuss the Celebrate Scottsdale display that will be located at the Civic Center Library, honoring 15 organizations who have made lasting impacts on the Scottsdale community. So with that, this is an information and discussion section of the agenda. So Doug, thank you for joining us. Take it away.
Well, thank you all for the invitation. Again, Doug Sidnor here. I'm also currently a Friends of Scottsdale Public Library Board of Directors member, for you to know. A little history about this permanent display. Over a year ago, Jim Bruner and Diana Smith were jointly talking about, is there a way to feature Scottsdale Leadership Organization somewhere within the vicinity of the Scottsdale Heritage Connection? And I said, well, that's a fine idea for that one particular organization, but we might think more holistically about celebrating all Scottsdale organizations in some kind of permanent display. So it did evolve and grow, and we did form a 5-member independent committee to select 15 organizations that we would more prominently feature. And they happen to include Scottsdale Leadership, as well as Friends of the Scottsdale Public Library and a dozen others. We had done a lot of research about all organizations in Scottsdale, which tallied up to about 60 of them. So the 45 that are not prominently featured will in fact be listed on the first panel. This is a shop drawing that's been worked up by Air Park Signs for us. So that first panel on the left would be an introductory panel where we would list those 45 organizations and adjacent to it, some kind of website link or Wikipedia link to give them more background information on that organization. And then as you go to the right of it, there will be 15 organizations stretched out over a 32-foot long permanent display. You can see in this graphic the name of the exhibit at the top, Celebrate Scottsdale Organizations. We've also confirmed that we have 6 donors that will be noted. Diana Smith single-handedly raised $30,500 to fund the entire display. So we are not asking any one of the organizations for any kind of donations to afford this. Within each organization that's featured, you'll see there on the second, third, fourth, fifth images that the panels are 4 feet high and 2 feet wide. Within each of them, we'll name the organization. There'll be an image just below it trying to capture the essence or purpose of that organization. Then there's a mission statement below it. And then there's 2 vertical panels at the base, which could be anything they care for it to be. And every organization's interpreted that in a different way. This is an image showing the full length of it. The first image you saw was it located on that back wall adjacent to the Scottsdale Heritage Connection. It's a fairly clean wall where this could occur. I should also note that recently the Friends of the Scottsdale Library have stepped up to fund some lighting so that it would be installed just above all these panels and shine down so that it's more easily read because that part of the space is somewhat dark, and that'll definitely improve its readability. In terms of the status right now, we've gathered all the firm background information from all 15. It's been forwarded to Air Park Signs to work up a proof on all the narratives so we can review and approve that. But the main system is under fabrication as we speak. The intent is to install it mid-June, and our ultimate deadline is to have it completed June 25th, 2021, which also coincides with the 70th anniversary since Scottsdale's founding in 1951. So I think those are the highlights of what we're proposing. Are there any questions?
Doug, this is Kira. I'm kind of scanning the crowd here to see if I can see any hands raised. And Lisa, I see your hand is raised. I don't know if you have a question on this or something else.
It was something else. I'm the transcriber from eScribers. And I just didn't know who made the motion to approve the minutes.
I was wondering that same thing. I don't know if anybody officially, Chair Raymond made a motion.
I did not. We'll go back and do that after we finish with Doug.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Sorry, Lisa.
Was that clear?
Okay. Sorry about that, Doug. I don't see any other hands raised.
All right. Well, we look forward to sharing all this once it's installed. We anticipate there might be some kind of soft opening with just the donors, so we keep our numbers down. And then there's kind of an understanding maybe in the fall, October timeframe, we would do a more grand dedication with all the organizations being invited. And of course, the numbers will grow substantially, but we think by then we'll be more comfortable holding such an event. And you will all be invited.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, Doug. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, you know what, Doug, before you go, I see that Board Member Sam Campana has her hand raised. Sam, do you have a question?
Doug, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Sorry, I switched over from trying to do this on my phone, which wasn't working, to being here at my laptop. But I did see the presentation and I'm so excited, Doug. Thank you again for following up on this. And when I see Diana, I'll be sure and thank her for those extraordinary efforts. Wow. But also, Kira, I'm very proud of the library for agreeing to do this and for making the space available. You know, this is a wonderful community celebration, to really acknowledge these organizations that make the quality of life better for all of us in Scottsdale. So Doug, I appreciate your efforts, and Jones and Jim and Diana's, and I had dinner last night with the people from the Air Park Signs, and I'll send them a little note right now and thank them again for their role.
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it, Doug. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is that all, Kira? Do we have any other
I
comments?
am looking. Okay, let's see. It does not look like there are any other hands raised, Chair Raymond.
Okay. I apologize for not doing the motion. We took the vote without having a motion to approve the minutes from April 21st, 2021. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections that Janet Smigelski pointed out?
I can't get my hand raised for some reason. It isn't working. So this is Janet Smigelski. I make a motion to approve the minutes as stated with the corrections.
Can I get a second?
Marna McClendon, is that why you're raising your hand?
It is, I'll second.
Great. Now we'll do a roll call vote just to make this official. Chair Sheila Raymond, aye. Vice Chair Janet Smigelski.
Aye.
Board members Sam Campana.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
is that you, Sam? Okay. Frida Hartman,
Aye.
Fred Klein,
Aye.
Marna McClendon.
Aye, and I think it could have be done by acclamation at that point originally as well.
Okay, it's hard when we're doing it this way, so I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you, Marna. Okay, so item number 2 is the review of bond project 1, replacing aging infrastructure and improved public and event spaces on Civic Center Plaza. Elaine Mercado, Senior Project Manager, will introduce Brandon I'm sorry, may not pronounce this right, Sovic, Principal Dig Studio, who will share a presentation overview and discuss possible recommendations regarding the bond project number. I think that's bond project 1. Replace aging infrastructure and improve public event spaces on Civic Center Plaza, Civic Center site design and construction renovation project. This is an information and discussion agenda item. So with that, Elaine, welcome.
Hello. My name's Erin Walsh, and I'm actually going to introduce the project on Elaine's behalf. She couldn't be here today. I've worked with a lot of you. I am a public information officer over in our capital projects division, and I work a lot on getting information out to the community on all of our projects. So if you want to go ahead and start moving through these slides, you're going to start with me, and then I'm going to hand it over, as noted, to Brandon Sobiak, who is the principal and founder of Dig Studio, and we'll do the majority of the presentation here. We just wanted to let you know that we have been working hard since the bond election to design a series of improvements for Scottsdale Civic Center that are based on a master plan. You can go ahead and go to that next slide. We will be introducing this project to the community with a virtual public meeting starting on Monday, the 24th. You can move to that next slide. Oh, keep going. All right, so how did we get here in the first place? This portion is going to rebuild portions of Scottsdale Civic Center Mall. A lot of the infrastructure is aging. We've had a few emergency closures, and we did that master plan, as I spoke about a few years ago, and now we're finally in the financial position to go ahead and make some of the improvements. Can move to that next slide. I know this group's very familiar with the history of Civic Center, as you live upon it with our flagship library right there on the side of Scottsdale Civic Center. We're really excited to talk to you guys about how we are going to have the library interact with the new design of Civic Center Mall. You will see on May 1st, 2018, the City Council approved the second update to the Municipal Use Master Site Plan, which is a governmental way for saying a roadmap of what we're going to improve. And that really laid the foundation for the project being included in the bond election. You can move to the next slide. which provides our funding. So it was project number one. We had a bond task force before the election who really helped us rank and prioritize projects and then forwarded their recommendations to the city council. This project came out at number one, the top priority of the city. So that's really saying something. Also involved in this project is project number 36, which will provide Wi-Fi all throughout the Civic Center area. You can go to the next slide. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brandon, who's going to give you a quick overview on the overall improvements for the entire Civic Center area. And then towards the end of his presentation, he's going to come back and really focus a lot more on how we're going to interact with the library. So with that, I'll hand it over to Brandon.
Perfect. Thank you, Erin. And thank you, board, for the opportunity to be here this afternoon virtually to discuss. You can go to the next slide. As you can see, there's a few slides up top, so I'll be saying next quite a bit. So apologies in advance for that, but felt it was appropriate to show kind of the overall extents of the entire project, like Erin had mentioned, and then focus in on that library and kind of the new amenity area that will be happening outside the library's doors. But first, wanted to take a step back and talk a little bit about the process of really digesting that municipal site master plan that was approved and the community outreach that went along with that to establish these overall design principles for the site, including really creating this entertainment destination, but also a place for daily use and family activity to occur within this context of arts and culture and the historic buildings that reside on the site. One of which is the library. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then, part of our approach, especially within a context like Scottsdale Civic Center, where you have an existing condition that's beloved by many folks in the community, is not only to understand what needs to be improved, but also really understand what's working well and figure out how to preserve those aspects of the Civic Center space. Next slide. We also have partners, Biederman Redevelopment Ventures, who specialize in programming spaces. And so we have them as an integral part of the team, really understanding how we can utilize these different contexts, one being public library, the others, performance art, the hotel, city hall, to create these areas around the park that really relate to those programs on the interior to really build up that relationship of the public library and then to the adjacent spaces to the north of it. Next slide. Overall, these kind of different contexts and different scales led us to look at 5 different study areas throughout the holistic master plan: the West Paseo, the West Bowl, the Civic Lawn, and the social hub, which has that direct connection to the Scottsdale Public Library and a potential new permanent entrance and exit that directly connects the library to the Civic Center, along with the East Bowl that's out those large windows when you look north from the main library area. Next slide. But the first order was really to understand the spaces and bring some definition to what can be kind of considered a little bit of a chaotic civic center as it existed today. So this was created with kind of these 3 defined shapes that make up these larger programmatic spaces. The West Bowl, that's really about the performing arts. The East Bowl, that has that connection with the public library and becomes that kind of event destination. And a civic lawn that reaches out and engages the city hall, the library, and the Center for Performing Arts, really kind of tying together those civic, cultural, and community aspects of the Civic Center. Next slide. The next layer of the design was to layer in these different amenity zones that related to those kind of contextual influences. So on the west, you have the entry room that's about pulling Main Street through the park and bringing that idea of markets and festivals through that promenade. The Gateway Plaza that terminates that and kind of brings people's attention to the main Civic Center area. 360-degree community plaza, which actually engages both the West Bowl and the Civic Lawn, offering a multitude of different kind of programmatic and event opportunities at different times of the day and different seasons. And then the 2 program areas adjacent to the public library, a new water plaza, interactive splash features, and a children's garden that features a small play area as well. Next slide. And then there's these kind of in-between spaces. What's really unique about the Civic Center is there is no buffer between these buildings and the park space. The park space in many ways is like a front lawn to these institutions. So it offers us a chance to really create these zones that reflect, whether it be the lagoons to the city hall or the grove to the library, the Marshall Gardens to the north that take inspiration from the geometries of the existing Marshall Garden, or the patio forest that speaks to those restaurants and kind of carries that outdoor dining and social gathering aspect of that out into the park. Next slide, please. And finally, it's the edge conditions. One of the big goals of this project was connectivity, both visually being able to see and understand the park, but also physically being able to approach and engage the park. We're looking at a transformation along North 75th Street that's more about water use and telling the story of more appropriate planting and water use of our desert to create a new entry off of 75th. And then also looking south about accessibility down to the improvements that will be happening along 2nd Street and reaching down to Giant Stadium, having better pedestrian access from both the garage entry and from that intersection at 2nd and Drinkwater. Next slide, please. So here's the overall master plan as it's stitched together. And you can see those 3 kind of defined programmatic areas. Their shape and form is actually inspired by the turquoise gem, which relates back to the arts of Old Town Scottsdale and is an interesting kind of connection into that. Next slide, please. And here you can see a view as a bird flying over from the southeast, looking to the northwest, with the library in your foreground and the East Bowl, and then those different amenity areas that scatter to the north. You'll notice in the yellow, it's a little hard to see, but those are the labels of all of the existing sculptures on site that will be refurbished and relocated as part of the design. We're working with Scottsdale Public Art to understand, the initial or the history of those pieces, the designer of the artist that created those pieces, and respectfully reciting those throughout the site. Next slide, please. And here's a kind of a flip side where you're on now the southwest over up above Brown and Main Street, looking in, and you can see that West Paseo with the yearlings and the Winfield Scott Memorial with adjacency to the Historical Museum. Next slide, please. So there's the 5 study areas. We'll go again kind of very high level through each and then pause with more intent on the social hub as it engages the library for this discussion. So with the West Paseo, the design goals for the area are really focused on connectivity. With the existing grading that's out there, the West Paseo acts today as a visual barrier from Main and Brown. And so the goal of this was really to clear the space out, flatten it, allow better flexibility for markets and events and setups, but also to allow that visual kind of penetration through the space. So when you're standing at that intersection, when you're walking down Main Street, you can tell that there's something exciting in the distance. You have that visual connection from Brown into the main park. Along the way, there's the series of rooms that connect together, that feature art, that feature busker performance locations, allow for seasonal transformations and allow for those event and market type setups. Next slide. And here you can see a view from the steps of the Historical Museum looking over at a newly graded West Paseo. The grade actually drops about 3 to 4 feet, really improving physical accessibility and kind of visual clearance through the entire area. Next slide. As you move further east through the park, you get to the West Bowl and the Marshall Gardens. And this is where that idea of preservation and enhancement really came through. This is a space that feels great to be in today. We didn't want to come and rethink this entire space. It works, it functions, it holds the Sunday affair, it has the large mature shade trees. It was really about creating a fabric, an underlay, a successionary kind of planting plan to allow that forest to thrive kind of years after this construction project is complete. And then with the Marshall Garden, it was more about this enhancement of something that was a gem to begin with. It's taking that geometry and adding this kind of desert Southwest overlay to it to give it some more vibrancy and to create this really textural backdrop for weddings and events that occur in that space today. Next slide, please. So here you can see that transformation of the different colors and tiles and the more desert appropriate environment. That was one thing that came out from the very original community outreach back in 2018 was this desire to showcase more of our native and landscape, especially within these environments that are used so much for photography.
Look at these pictures.
Events. Next slide, please. And here's a shot from underneath one of those large mature trees that dot the west side of the park. This looks at a new 360-degree shade structure in Community Plaza. This is a unique element that wraps those two existing banyan trees that you can see out there today. And what this does is it activates not only the west lawn, but also flips around and activates the central lawn as well. So it becomes a great community space to have a variety of events from morning yoga classes to movie nights to small performances. And actually the interior of the space has some great change that allows for more intimate kind of terrace seating for those busker performances or even smaller performances. Next slide, please. As you move now even further east over the Drinkwater Bridge, you come to basically what is kind of called the heart of the Civic Center, the Civic Lawn with a civic kind of loop walk. We think of this walk as an opportunity to kind of tell the story of Scottsdale, weave in the history with its relationship to the three Benny Gonzalez buildings, the City Hall, the library, and the Center of Performing Arts. It really does stitch all that together. And it also links the variety of program from the gardens to the lagoons to the new splash pad. So kind of this old and new all coming together within this one heart of Scottsdale. You can also see the Botanic Gardens to the north, and being on the bridge, we're limited to the weight and size of materials and structures that we can put on top of that. And so we thought it was a great idea to showcase some of the odd and interesting and unique plant material our desert has to offer, being a educational opportunity for us locals and also all the visitors that come and storm the space during during the high event season. Is really a place to display and showcase Scottsdale. Next slide, please. And here you see a view from the 360 canopy looking east. And this really links together those institutions and then the kind of the new interventions that are occurring within the park space. So you see City Hall and the library framing the view. And one important aspect of this design was this visual connection from this point of the park down to the East Bowl canopy, which is this new performance area. So you get these three kind of structures in combination with each other that make up this view with the love statue kind of dotting the event lawn. Next slide, please. And here's a shot of that Botanic Garden with the connection to Camelback Mountain in the distance. And our team's currently exploring ways to enhance and play with color and art to make these two artistic bookends that are the Drinkwater Bridge terraces in conjunction with the artist that's working on an art piece on the tunnel below. Next slide, please. All right. So now I'll kind of dive into this area in a little bit more detail than the others. This is the social hub space. And Kira knows a little bit about this space. She's been involved in offering really great feedback along the way as well. But this space is really designed to respond to what we heard within that community outreach of more daily activation, more things for families to do, more reasons to come. And it makes so much sense to connect that with the library being a very family kind of focused and family friendly experience. I think there's a lot of opportunity to bring that program that's interior and offer a space for that to happen on the exterior. So as you can see in the plan up on the upper left corner, outside the library to the north, there's kind of this amenity zone with three separate spaces, one being a children's garden that features a reading room and sculptural play elements. And on the Civic Lawn side, a new splash plaza. So the lagoons were kept in front of City Hall to respect that historic view, but the footprint was shrunk to conserve water. And a new water kind of fog plaza was put in its place to have better interaction and use of that water. So it's actually cooling, you can have fun in it, you can play with it. And actually that recycles and fills the lagoon, and anything that overflows irrigates the plant material. So it's actually a net zero water use feature. Next slide, please. So here you can see kind of a programmatic overlay of the types of activities that would happen within each of these zones. So within the children's garden, there's the reading room, a large reading tree looking at getting a very large kind of mature tree within that place that you can kind of create that comfortable shady environment to grab a book and read. And then this sculptural overlay of play. The arts and sculpture that are outside of the windows have a wonderful connection with the library. And this actually suggests relocating that freedom statue into the children's garden as it was originally intended by the sculptor. The intention of that statue was to actually be a child's play element to be climbed on. And so that will be featured now within the children's garden area. The Grove stitches these two kind of programmatic areas together and becomes that great, birthday party gathering space, picnic area, would have social games such as ping pong and others to kind of serve that larger variety of person that comes within the space. And then the Water and Fog Plaza has the zero waste interactive splash feature, which I mentioned before, but then also a separate fog feature, which is more about performance. Again, this artistic overlay with water. So it's something that would not constantly be on, but would be activated at certain times of the day or certain times of the week, and almost be an event that you'd want to go see that could be lit up at night and almost be designed in a way that it is almost like a piece of art. And then you see the love statue to the side that anchors that civic lawn, about 30 to 40 feet or so north of where it exists today, still with great views of City Hall in the background and great views of Camelback Mountain in the distance. Next slide. So shade's obviously important if we're going to make a space for people. We want to make it comfortable. We're working with our design partners, Lake Flato, on creating a new restroom in this location, but then also creating these park shade structures that offer respite from the Arizona sun. Next slide. And here you can see a perspective from the north looking back down at the library of how the Children's Garden works with the Grove and the Water Fog Plaza to create a very immersive and vibrant family amenity area. Next slide. And so speaking of that kind of sculptural element and the freedom statue, the Children's Gardens actually, and the geometries are actually inspired by that. It allows us to create these different nooks and crannies and exploratory spaces for child's play, and it works out really well and tells that story of the freedom sculpture. Next slide, please. So here you can see the new Children's Garden area in the Scottsdale Public Library to the south. Those doors would become permanent entrance. So you'd have a flow from this area interior to the library. So there's that nice connection from the children's reading area to the outside children's garden area that we can take advantage of. Next slide, please. Here you can see a perspective kind of over the East Bowl looking back at that. And so along with, like I was mentioning with those geometries of the freedom sculpture, one of the wonderful things with using these kind of organic shapes and pieces, we're able to create a variety of different spaces from, quiet spaces where it is comfortable to grab a book to these louder, more active kind of play spaces where it will keep and engage families for, several hours within the space. Next slide, please. And here you can see that view out of the doors. We're working with Biederman Redevelopment Ventures, our programming partners, to understand different things that we can do to continually activate and work with the library to bring some of that programming out. One idea is just something as simple as a reading room or a bookshelf, one of those kind of take it, leave it libraries that engages the main walk where it invites you in to take a book. You can see the reading tree in the center providing that great shade, and then doing something interesting with the topography in the area and bringing in kid size and adult size seating opportunities so everybody has a comfortable place to sit and lounge. Next slide, please. And along with that, we're looking at the planting in the area to capture and collect all the water that basically runs off that grade to create these kind of small wildlife, hummingbird, butterfly gardens, and bring that educational aspect into it. We're also looking at a number of sensory and inclusive play features within this children's garden zone. Next slide. And you can see with the little hill, it offers opportunities for climbing and adventure and exploratory play. And there would be all these accessible play loops. So no matter a child's ability or age, they're able to experience all these different aspects of the design. Next slide, please. And part of the one kind of unique aspect of this is is its relationship then over to the East Bowl and how we can actually take advantage of that to create what we're calling the perch. So, during the day, if the kids are running around the children's garden, it's a great place to look out west and kind of oversee the garden. And then it offers an opportunity where you can flip around and look down at the East Bowl stage and take in performance from an interesting vantage point. Next slide, please. And then as we get kind of pulled back into the grove, you can see a view from underneath the structure, looking over at the children's garden with a modeled relocated freedom sculpture. Next slide. And that grove again has those different kind of social elements, whether it's interesting, adult size swings, game tables, that sort of thing to activate the space. Next slide. And here you can see a view again, kind of back in front of those game tables, looking out over the children's garden area. Next slide. And then the water fog plaza. So, it's important within our environment to offer these opportunities to cool off and cool down. And, we find a lot of success with these kind of fog and mist systems actually creating a cooling effect of the air. So not only is it fun to play in, but it's actually fun to, cool off on it as well. Next slide. But they also offer kind of this layer of artistic flair that, again, that can become a pretty vibrant display, especially at night when you can add, interactive lighting and that sort of thing. Next slide, please. And here you can see the layout with the water and fog plaza, kind of centrally located with these different seat walls. And the seat walls would actually have jets that interact with them as well. So if you're a child or an adult, and you want to get your feet wet, you'd have plenty of time, opportunity to do that as well. The shade structure is located to the south, which makes sense. And then an integrated restroom actually tucks underneath that shade structure with an accessible point to the north. So if you're coming from the splash pad, it's easily accessible. Then also to the south. So if you're just walking kind of behind and through the grove area and want to avoid the water plaza, you have that opportunity as well. Next slide, please. And here's a view from the civic lawn looking kind of back at that space with the restroom in the distance, the shade structure peeking out, and the love statue in City Hall in the background. Next slide, please. And kind of being up on that platform, again, offering a variety of those kind of fun and unique seating opportunities, not only taking in the splash pad, but also you can see the 360 stage structure in the distance and Camelback Mountain. Next slide, please. And again, kind of from that civic walk and how you access up to that little perch terrace. Next slide, please. All right, and then over to the East Bowl. This is really about solving, kind of creating a permanence to the event and stage setup that occurs in this zone already. One of the main moves here was to eliminate the existing water feature on site that's in need of repair and frankly has been modified from its original form already, and create a new kind of stage and performance canopy for this zone. Next slide, please. And so one thing that was important within the design of this canopy, working with our partners in Lake Plato, was to kind of move from this idea of water use in terms of the fountain that exists out there into water capture. And so, it is a performance pavilion, but it's performing in a lot of different ways. It's actually working to collect rainwater and filter it through a new landscape that is defined by our desert palette and features bioswales that take the water to the existing trees that live out there right now. Between the turf reductions and the water feature reductions on site, we're able to save about 6 million gallons of water per year. That equates to roughly cutting the water use of the entire park in half. So we feel like that's a significant accomplishment and really showcases Scottsdale's commitment to sustainability. Next slide, please. And here you can see how it transitions from the previous slide, which feels very park-esque, into that entertainment destination hosting multiple scales of events and performances. Next slide. I believe that is it. So Aaron, I didn't know if you wanted to cover anything else on project schedule. Otherwise, we can wrap here.
I'm happy to. We are, right, I guess what you really need to know is our virtual public meeting kicks off on May 24th, which is Monday, and it will stay open until June 11th. Please send anyone there you think would be interested. We will be posting signs on the mall, in the Civic Center area, as well as sending some signs over to the library to be posted there. Our public hearing process, which is what we're doing here today, a few other boards and commissions, DRB, Planning Commission, City Council, will occur this summer. Late this summer, we're going to start relocating public art and doing a little bit of pre-construction work to give us a jump on our schedule. Construction will begin in October of 2021 and be complete in January of 2023. So I believe that concludes our presentation, and I assume you probably have more questions for Brandon than for myself, but let's hear what you got.
Thank you, Brandon and Aaron. This is Sheila Raymond. I just want to say thank you for the grading change. As someone who has a disability and sometimes needs to use a scooter, it is difficult to navigate now, and having it flat or flatter will make it really easy. But I have to tell you, one of the most exciting things for me is the inclusive play space, so that children of all abilities can play, but also the adults who bring the children. If the adults have a limitation, they too can participate and enjoy the space with the children that they bring there. So that is very exciting, and having it right outside the library is perfect placement. Okay, Amy, can you look for hands raised, or Kira?
Yep, I am on it. I am looking for hands raised right now. Scanning our virtual participants, but I don't see any as of yet. Brandon must have done just such a stellar job. There are no questions.
Yeah.
Oh, I see board member Smigelski has got a question, and then Frida Hartman. So Janet, you go first.
Okay, great. This will be very short. How are you? This park is a great park for people. They walk their dogs quite often.
Yep.
How are you anticipating accommodating and dealing with dogs, and potentially, I assume, keeping them out of the water? But I don't know. Maybe you want them in the water, but then doesn't it get a little concerning about sanitation and hygiene?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So one, we'd have dog waste dispensers throughout, mainly at the entry point. So it suggests, hey, take a bag and clean up. With the water feature, the decision was not to use a recirculating system. And that being one of the reasons. When you use a recirculating system, you have to worry about those contamination events. Often you would also put a fence around it, so you to kind of limit dogs and other animals that you wouldn't want on the pad. In discussions with the city of Scottsdale, we've developed a different alternative of a flow-through system. So it would only be activated when somebody's there. It wouldn't be something that would be constantly running. Now the lagoons would, the fountain kind of spray features that are out there currently, those would still be running. But the interactive splash pad would be something where a child or adult would have to come, push a button, and then it would run for a few minutes, and then it would go back off, and the kids would push it if they're out there, and it would work that way. Now, what happens to the water is it doesn't go down the drain. It actually goes over to the lagoons, because the lagoon, just by the sheer size of it and the fact that the fans are spraying water in the air, lose a significant amount of water per day in terms of evaporation. So as the kids use the fountain feature, that water goes over and fills the lagoon. And then we'd be adding one more piece to that system that says if the lagoon gets to a full level, then it goes into an irrigation tank. And then that water gets used to irrigate the remainder of the planting throughout the site. So if there was a situation where, there was contamination, it wouldn't actually be recirculating, and the kids wouldn't have contact with that. I hope I explained that in a way that made sense. But yeah, it's not one where the water goes down and then it comes back up. It's just the water goes down, then it goes to a different area of the site, and then it ends up in landscape.
I guess this is Jan again. I also wanted to ask, are areas going to say designated for dogs or for pets or not? No. Or is it just all open?
It's all open right now. There's no designated like fenced dog park or anything like that right now. So it would just be an open area to walk a dog and kind of pick up after it. The discussion early on was not necessarily to attract more dogs with like a formal dog park, but just make make accommodations for those dog owners to pick up after their pets.
All right, Janet, are you okay if I move on to Frida?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, Board Member Hartman.
Yes, thank you so much. First off, I want to say how much I appreciate the presentation and what an amazing project. You know, from a visual and an artistic perspective, from a functional perspective, and the opportunity to serve the needs of so many different groups in our communities, families, and others, everyone having an opportunity to enjoy certain parts of the whole. So thank you very much for sharing a wonderful presentation here, and this project will be fabulous and as I said, amazing, and looking forward to it. My question is, as we talk to work within our communities and talk to our neighbors, are there some materials available or anything that we can use to help them to understand what's happening here and the wonderful nature of this project, and just to help them to know what we know a little bit more about what's going to be done to really transform the Civic Center area?
Absolutely. We have a project website on the city site. If you ever go to the city website, which is different from the library's website, but the main city site, at the very top, there's a big search bar that's so big that people often miss it. But if you find it, type in Scottsdale Civic Center and our project page will pop up. It doesn't have this material now, but as of Monday, it will. And there's going to be a number of things. A version of this presentation will be there, and it will be narrated. And it's Brandon and I doing the talking. And we are also going to put up several different chapters, just because this is such a big and comprehensive project. If you really want to tell people what's going on right in front of the library and that interaction, there is the area we're calling the social hub, and there will be a presentation just on that. We're going to have fact sheets that you can easily download, like for a neighbor, that's just a one pager on some of the improvements. And then there will also be some of the graphics that you saw today that are just, single shot PDFs if you want to email them or pass them on. So we appreciate you helping us spread the word.
Sure, that's wonderful. And I'm wondering if there are some communities, homeowners associations and the like, who might want to, for example, do a Zoom session and go to the website. Is it possible to just access that and show some of these graphics and some of these presentations that will be loaded there, do you think?
Absolutely. We have a full scale public outreach effort going on right now. We have spent the last 2 weeks talking with event producers and businesses that front or touch the mall, the Civic Center area, and including the library, which is why we're here today. We're talking to the Parks and Rec Commission in about an hour or so. We talked to the Tourism Development Commission yesterday because they authorized the original funding for the master plan. On Monday, we'll really launch our process publicly. We just want to make sure that everything is 100% up there and ready to go before we start sending people to that site. So once we do that, we have a number of electronic publications within the city, social media. We'll be pushing this out so that it's really easy for everyone to find. And that includes working with some of our HOAs.
Great. And one more quick question. When we talk to our communities and associations about this information, is there a point person or point office for questions or further information that we can refer them to?
Absolutely. Again, I'm going to refer you to that project website. There is a public comment form. So if they just want to tell us what they think, but they don't really want a response back necessarily, that's probably the best way to do it. We really encourage people to do that because when they fill that out, their comments will follow the project all the way through the public hearing process, all the way to city council, and also be reviewed by the project team. But there is a phone number and some contact information on the site as well if people have additional questions.
Well, so wonderful to have the library, the Civic Center Library, right in the heart of this development. It will make a huge impact and so much appreciated. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Brandon and Aaron, I'm looking. I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time. Should I going once, going twice? And I think that will do it. And if there's any other questions, Aaron, we will continue to refer people to the website once it's appropriate to do so on Monday, the 24th.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys taking the time.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you,
very much.
Brandon.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, that's very exciting. I can't wait. It can't happen soon enough for me. Okay, and as mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we're going to now have the director's report and put the patron comment at the end of the meeting. So we're going to go ahead with Kira, Community Services Administrator, providing the library board with a brief summary of current events in the library. Just a reminder, this is an information only agenda item. The board cannot discuss or vote on items not on the agenda, including items brought up as the director's report. If discussion or action by the board is required, the item should be placed on an upcoming meeting agenda to be consistent with the Arizona open meeting law. And with that, Kira, thank you so
very
much.
Oh, no, thank you, Chair Raymond. I appreciate it. Thank you for the flexibility with moving this item up. The reason we had to do it is I have to be at the Parks and Rec Commission meeting, which starts at 5. So in the event that we are running past that, Senior Library Manager Mandy Carrico is going to take over the ending of the meeting, but I wanted to present to the director's report. So I appreciate that. Amy, you can go to the next slide. All right, as we continue as a community and a nation to navigate COVID-19, I always want to give a little update on what's happening in the library. And recently there have been changes to the mask requirements according to the CDC, and that change has impacted the library. So right now, people that are, let me make sure that I get this right, only unvaccinated patrons are should be wearing masks. So really, we are on the honor system, and the masks, if you're a vaccinated employee or member of the public per the CDC, you no longer have to wear a mask. So that is the case in the libraries. That is the case for Scottsdale Public Library employees as well. So this has been an interesting change and an interesting, as per the norm with COVID-19, an interesting thing to navigate. So we really have sent communication out to the library teams. The City of Scottsdale's Office of Communication has done the same. So basically, in a nutshell, again, this is on the honor system. So we are trusting that both the public and Scottsdale employees, if you are fully vaccinated, that you do not have to wear a mask while you are in the library. If you are not vaccinated, we are hoping that people will be respectful and wear their face covering. We've also given information out to the library staff just about being thoughtful and respectful during this time, and really just being quite honest with each other. And if you're comfortable, to be forthcoming with the fact that, for example, me, Kira Peters, hello, Sheila Raymond, I've been fully vaccinated. Are you comfortable if I take off my mask while we are interacting? So things like that. But it's definitely an interesting situation to work through, especially given the honor system. We're not asking anybody to see their vaccination cards. We have to respect health and medical privacy. So we continue to make it through the COVID-19 pandemic, and the masks have been the biggest change as of late. So I just wanted to give a little update on how that is impacting the library staff, and the public. So far, quite honestly, things have been going pretty well. Everyone's been very respectful. So that's good news to report. Next slide, please, Amy. I also wanted to talk here that the fiscal year 21-22 budget, last night at the council meeting, the fiscal year 21-22 tentative budget was approved by City Council. So really what that means for the library is two things primarily that I want to share with the board is that the CIP project, which is the Storytime Room expansion project, was included in that. So this is good news that I think we're going to be able to hit the ground running in the new fiscal year and complete that expansion project starting as soon as we can in July to get that work done. done and complete. That's also just a reminder to us that when the library's budget was reduced this fiscal year as a direct result of COVID and economic impacts, one of our major areas that was impacted was the library's material budget. And that budget was cut, Becky can correct me if I'm wrong, but 60%. So we are still going to be operating at that reduced budget level in 21-22. So we really do want to pay attention to that. That is going to definitely impact how we're providing services, especially when and if we can expand library operations. So just wanted to report out on that tentative budget being approved. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the library's priorities in the next slide. So these are our priorities right now, and understanding that we're still getting through COVID and the city of Scottsdale is being very cautious, both with public health and the economy. Right now, as you will see in the patron comments, a lot of our public is asking, when is the library system going to open back up? Right now, our buildings are not closed because of COVID. They are closed because of our budget restrictions at this time. And I always like to mention this is not just happening to the library, it's happening all across the city. But for us, the senior managers and myself have really decided that we want to make opening up our system a priority, even if that means doing it in a modified fashion. So for example, Senior Manager of Over Operations, Mandy Carrico, has developed a plan for a phased open of Arabian Library if we can get approval to fill some of our vacancies so that we can do a modified opening of that building. You all know about Appaloosa Library and the Pony Express. While that has been a wonderful service and it has opened up the doors, certainly without staff on the floor, that is not a full service library, and we would like to address that as well. And then of course, Mustang and Civic Center are just operating on reduced hours as well. So if we can get some resources back, we could start expanding library hours. So that is something that I continue to talk about with assistant city managers, Scottsdale leadership. And I think as we progress through the budget process and in the new fiscal year, things have been trending better than the city expected. I am hopeful that we'll be able to expand our hours of operation. So that will be priority number one. One of the things that we do at all of our library meetings is we like to pay attention and remind ourselves of what our priorities are. The other things that we've been keeping at the forefront all year long is convenient and safe service. Obviously, the library collection, especially since that took such a reduction, employee well-being, and library outreach, which we also feel is very important amidst a pandemic when it's hard for people to come into a library building. So just a little report out on our priorities. And next slide, Amy. We have been getting a lot of questions about our library volunteers, our beloved library volunteers who we cannot wait to come back. Right now, the city's volunteer program is still on pause. And what the city is doing is the city of Scottsdale has a pandemic policies and procedures. And in that policies and procedures guidance, it talks about the level of COVID community spread. And right now, as far as I know, the city is still in, or, the state is still in high substantial, or maybe I should say Maricopa County, forgive me for not knowing exactly, but we are still in high spread, high community spread, high substantial spread. And even when we hit the moderate level, the volunteer program will still be on pause. Once things get to an under or a low consideration, there's a low category there of community spread. That is when there's going to be a focus on a careful phased approach of returning our library volunteers. So we get a lot of our volunteers who are fully vaccinated, interested in coming back. I think the library staff would definitely like to have them back. But right now, as we still experience the higher levels of community spread, that will not be the case. So we are paying close attention to that. The city is paying close attention to that. One thing that's really great, and I want to commend Melissa Orr and her team, is the library already has developed a plan for how we would phase our volunteers back in when we are given the green light. And in a nutshell, we would bring them back doing, maybe not so much public facing work, but okay, we get a lot of books donated to the library. Could our volunteers come in, not direct contact with the public, but they could be working behind the scenes, helping with the books that we get donated. So just an update on the volunteers. I'll continue to keep the board updated if anything changes with that, but that's the news on the volunteers. Next slide. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we're lucky enough to have Dr. Whalen with us here today, and she's going to be doing a presentation on the summer reading program. So I'm going to save it for her. And then next slide, please. As I was preparing for the director's report, I always go right to the Scottsdale Public Library's Facebook page because Jennifer Wong Ortiz, the library's marketing team, does a great job of keeping our social media updated with really fun posts, tons of information. So I just wanted to do a little reminder to the library board that if you are a social media person, please make sure you are visiting the Scottsdale Public Library's Facebook page because, wow, there is a lot of great information on our social media. So just a little plug and a reminder there. Next slide, please. Speaking of social media, the Friends of the Library, and I know that Board Member Smigelski will probably be giving an update, so I won't take too much time with this, but just a few things. Number one, if you look here, I don't know if Amy can do a little circle with her mouse there, but right there is Wonder Woman. And what Amy has been doing, Amy Herring, who works with us here at the library, who directs these meetings with me, she really has been helping out. She's on a Friends committee, and she has been using the Scottsdale Heritage collection, the historical collection, using the yearbooks that we have here at the library and highlighting fun things that she has found. So this really, Amy, you jump in. I'm not sure I felt like it went viral when you put this up that Arcadia High School had Wonder Woman who attended, and that's a picture of her right there. So that's really been fun. And then the next little post here, from Friends of the Library is they have been carefully also beginning to offer programming outdoor. So they had an Airtime with Author event on May 7th, a Friday, and they had the author, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce her name correctly, but Donis Casey was there and did an author presentation. They did it at Arabian, not indoors, but outside on the patio, and it was a great success. So just a little plug there for the Scottsdale Friends of the Library, doing great things. The board is growing. It's really exciting. Thank you, Amy. Next slide. All right, so again, with the CIP and the budget looking very favorable, we are going to start work on the story time room. I call it the Sky Room Story Time Room. Prior to the pandemic, we already had an architect in developing plans, and we decided to call it the Sky Room, and I think that is the way it's going to go. So as we move forward with our monthly meetings, I'll be giving updates on how this project is coming along. It's going to really be interesting, especially as the library hopefully continues to open. This is a really important space for programming for us. So we will want to make this a high priority to get complete. It'll be nice to have some more space, especially in light of our community coming out of a pandemic. Luckily, our outdoor programming has been going wonderfully, but with the Arizona summers, we know that is not going to always be the case. So more to come on the Storytime Room expansion. Briefly, and I hope you guys can see all these, I just wanted to do little snapshots of some of the metrics and things that we're seeing here in the library. So these are some April 2021 snapshots. And this first one here is curbside and drive-through stats. So you can kind of see, if you can take a second to digest this slide, really this curbside and drive-through has really been popular, even with, you know, Mustang and Civic Center being open. I think a lot of our community is enjoying this service and probably will continue to use it even when things are better with the pandemic. So you can look there at Mustang in April, you know, over 3,000 cars coming through. Appaloosa, close to 3,000. Arabian, same thing, 2,500. Civic Center, which, you know, we don't have a lot of curbside pickup spaces, but that's almost getting close to 1,000. So this contactless service is really popular, and I just wanted to highlight that. Next slide. Here's a snapshot of the gate counts. And what I wanted to specifically point out is, of course, all throughout this time, we've been really interested. It's really been interesting that Mustang Library has really been the busiest branch being open. But of course, we attribute that to Arabian and Appaloosa being closed. So I think a lot of those northern patrons are visiting Mustang. Civic Center, of course, very busy. And now that we have the Pony Express, you see Appaloosa starting to have some attendance there as well. So there is a snapshot of our gate counts in April. Next slide. And that is my brief high-level director's report to all of you. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Kira. Wow. So much going on. It's so exciting. Thank you to you and the staff for getting us through this COVID-19 transition and the changes. And hopefully the community will see the efforts being made and we won't have any problems. So good job.
Thank you very much, Chair Raymond.
You bet. And then to go back, we're going to, so if you have any questions or things you want to address, you guys need to put it on an agenda item, which will be coming up in item number 7. But for right now, we're going to go to item number 4, Canopy. Bethany Romberg, digital librarian, will share the new streaming service available to patrons. This is an information and discussion item on the agenda. So with that, Bethany, welcome. Take it away.
Thank you. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I am Bethany Romberg. I'm the e-resource librarian for Scottsdale Public Library, and I just wanted to give you a taste of the changes that have happened in e-resources over the last couple of months. It's been mostly positive. I have one piece of bad news, but otherwise we have really great news. And the first is that, you know, as a public library, we are very proud to offer ebooks, audiobooks, music, movies, magazines, newspapers, kids, ebooks, and now, next slide, please. Oops. It should have said Canopy. There we go. Canopy. And so this is our new service. We started it 2 weeks ago. So it is a brand new service. Next slide, please. And what is it? So it is a streaming film service. So you can, kind of like Netflix, you can get movies, you can get documentaries, you can get TV series. There's a whole section for kids. So it works like Netflix, where you stream video content wherever you have stable internet or Wi-Fi. And all you need is your library card to create an account. You can check out 6 films per month and have 3 days to watch. There are special features that include content just for kids with Canopy Kids and access to great courses, which is that fascinating lecture series where experts talk about areas of specialization that I'm addicted to. So I hope you all get a chance to check it out. Next slide, please. So Canopy works on most devices as long as they can connect to stable Wi-Fi or internet. So mobile devices like iPads and Androids allow for in-app watching, so very easy. You can stream off the website on traditional computers and desktops, and many smart TVs like Roku or Apple can stream off of the Canopy app inside the TV itself. So that's actually really, really convenient. Next slide, please. And the best part, there is so much content, so much variety. So we have classic Hollywood to indie faves, award winners, television shows, animation, excuse me, documentaries, kid series, and this Criterion collection, which is some of the best of international cinema. It's a well-respected group of high-level film. Canopy actually started as an academic program for teaching in colleges on film and drama. So they really started out as an academic educational tool that they've now adapted for library use, which I think is pretty cool. So next slide, please. All right, how to do it, how to get access. Next slide, please. Well, as always, you start off at the Scottsdale Public Library's downloadable page by going to our website, which is Scottsdale Library, all one word, .org. You'll see along the top a blue toolbar. You want to go to Browse. With the drop-down menu, go to Downloadables. If you run into any trouble, please contact me and I can help you along the way. But the starting page is at the Scottsdale Public Library's downloadable page. Or if you're comfortable on your computer, you can just go to scottsdaleaz.canopy.com and that takes you straight to our account. Next slide, please. And you click Add Library Card. Next slide, please. You add in your library card number using your personal information and email, and most of all, your library card and PIN number. Next slide, please. They will send you a verification email, and that's the email that you give to them during the account creation process. You verify your account. Next slide, please. And that's it. you're all done. You have an account with Canopy. It's about as easy to do as any of our digital libraries. It's just a nice, clean interface, pretty simple to walk through. But again, if you or anyone you know runs into trouble, send them my way. And next slide. So just to kind of show off a little bit, these are some of the things you can find in Canopy. So we have award winners, current and past Oscar winners. Next slide, we have cult classics. Everybody and their mother has told me to watch this, What You Do in the Shadows, and now I finally can. Next slide, please. The Criterion collection that has some of the greats of French, Italian film, the Japanese series, just really wonderful, wonderful world cinema. And it is available, again, right through Canopy. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a Hollywood fan. So for me, Dial M for Murder, they have Roman Holiday, Sunset Boulevard. So they just really have some of the greats of old Hollywood, and they are all ready to stream. Next slide, please. Indie films for every taste. You can watch old favorites or find new ones to enjoy. Next slide, please. And documentaries. This is really fun. You can explore your world with world-class documentaries and short films. Next slide, please. Also, a large animation collection, and these are not just for kids. There is really a lot of astonishing work being done in animated films that are for all types of ages and interests. Next slide, please. And international films from around the globe. This is an example of the Criterion collection, which is Fellini's 8.5 and is a favorite movie of mine. Next slide, please. And this is great, just for the kiddos, Canopy Kids. So with Canopy Kids, what happens is you check out one episode or storybook through Canopy Kids, and you get 30 days of unlimited access to all the Canopy Kid content. So you're not using up all of your checkouts with just for kids books or kids TV series, because we know they like to binge. So with Canopy Kids, you get one checkout, gives you 30 days of unlimited play. Next slide, please. And it is some great stuff. It's got, remember Highlights, the old magazine? Well, now they're doing videos. We also have Sesame Street. We have a bunch of Storytime picture books, Berenstain Bears, just so much that kids can enjoy along with their parents. Next slide, please. And this is for learners of all ages, you know, really where the library really wants to be, which is lifelong education. Great courses, hundreds of interesting topics, and just something for everyone. And when you check out a great course, you actually get a full month to take all of the lectures in the series. They range from 6 to 60 lectures per course. And again, if you have any desire to, you know, take a little area of interest, maybe not a full academic course, but you just want to learn a little bit more, this is a great way to learn. The Great Courses is a classic series that we're really delighted to be able to present. Next slide, please. And that is Canopy. We are really excited to roll out this service because, as you know, there have been some cuts to digital services required for budget reasons. And so adding a new service is just a thrill. Next slide, please. However, I want to point out another really cool thing we just did, which is about 6 weeks ago, we rolled out Wall Street Journal Access, which is daily newspaper access to the Wall Street Journal. And it's kind of similar to how we do our New York Times, where you do a code redemption and get 72 hours of access. Once the 72 hours have ended, you go back to the beginning, you redeem the code again, and you have another 72 hours of access. I don't know about you, but I paid for my New York Times and my Wall Street Journal subscriptions. I'm kind of a news junkie. And it was getting pricey and they kept raising it. I was spending $40 a month just on my newspapers, and now I get them free through the library. So I'm excited about that. Next slide, please. I did want to comment, however, about our recent loss of Acorn TV. I know some board members are big fans, and I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that what happened was that RB Digital, the vendor who provided Acorn TV, was purchased by an investment company, stripped of its assets, and shut down. So it wasn't us, it was them. And we are desperately looking for a way to get Acorn content back. But as of right now, we really don't know how that's going to happen or what it's going to look like. So I just wanted to make sure the board was aware that there were outside external circumstances, and we are as sad to lose Acorn as everybody else is. So that is my presentation. It was a little quick, so please feel free to reach out to me at any point. Again, this is Bethany Ronberg. I'm the e-resource librarian, and you can contact me via the website or directly at my phone number, 480-312-7078. If you have any questions about current services or you want to get started using our digital libraries, please reach out to me and tell your friends. Thank you.
Wow, Bethany, that was such a great presentation. I had no idea how versatile the variety. I mean, sorry, my head's kind of blown. I had no idea Canopy was so inclusive. So thank you for a wonderful presentation. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Bethany?
All right, I am looking here. It looks like board member Smilgowski, and then we've got Fred Klein and then Marna McLinden in that order. So Janet, you want to go first?
Yeah. Hi, Bethany. That was a phenomenal performance presentation. It was so good. It could have been a performance. It was very good. It really was wonderful. I have used Canopy quite a bit. I have lots of problems with it, and I can discuss that with you. We should set up a time because I don't want to hold up the board meeting. I have a lot of difficulty with being locked out. Locking me out after 3. And because one of the things I have, and this, then I'll just stop, okay? Because there are issues, and I always test out everything the library gets. Most all the films do not have trailers. So if you want to go in just to see how a film looks, which I do quite often, that counts as one. That counts as one. Even if you're on 30 seconds, that counts as one. And I've been getting locked out for a month, and I don't know what the definition of, well, 30 days is. When is it for my first one? When is my last one? Whatever. But I get locked out, and it's because I go in and I view a film because I have yet to find a movie that has a trailer. Yet to find one.
No.
And so anyway, and Acorn Hat was just the opposite. It had trailers for everything. And so we can discuss this. Yeah. I get locked out for 3. I'm not talking in a day. I'm talking 3 overall, because I don't look at that many every day. I do a couple and then I quit.
Okay.
And so we can talk. I don't want to tie up the board meeting.
No. Yes, give me a call.
But I see this as a problem. Yeah. And not having trailers to me is a real problem. But so Canopy right now is not my favorite. Not to dwell on negative, because you gave a great presentation, and I think it will serve many needs. But we can talk offline.
Yes, please give me a call. We'll set up an appointment and we can go over it.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Okay, great. Thank you very
Janet.
much, Bethany. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Janet. And Fred Klein, I'm going to go to you, and Mandy Carrico, I'm going to be logging off and heading to a next meeting. So thank you for taking on the meeting after this. Fred, all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Mr. Klein.
Hi. Why is Canopy spelled with a K? Isn't that a bad misspelling, a bad example for a library program?
I think they're trying to be hip, is all I can say. I don't know why they spelled it that way. Could have been a trademark issue, what have you. But that is, it's a well-established service for libraries. But as I was saying, they started out in the academic libraries and have only recently branched out into public libraries. So Phoenix has it, Mesa has it, a couple other locals have it, but we're kind of at the beginning of the curve on this one. So pretty excited about it.
So this isn't unique to the Scottsdale Library. Lots of libraries have this same service.
This is the film service for libraries. It's lots of film companies don't want to work with libraries. So this is kind of the best one we've got right now. And they've just added Neon Films, which is the one that has Parasite and I, Tonya, and a bunch of other recent releases. So we're excited to have those being added. Stuff is added every day.
And it's canopy everywhere?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think I'm next.
Yeah, we have Marna.
Hi, Marna.
Hi, Bethany. Thank you so much for this. So I have a quick user story, if I may.
Okay.
About 10 days ago, I was looking through lots of magazines in the house. I found an old one on France from 2016. And I'm going through it, and there's this wonderful documentary on Hitchcock Truffaut, who was a French director. And it was about an interview that Truffaut did of Hitchcock in 1962. And now it's been released as a documentary with other directors commenting. And so I thought, well, I love Hitchcock. I wonder where you could get that. So we searched, and guess what? It was on Canopy. And I said, oh, I think the library has Canopy. And so we got on Canopy, and we had a lovely evening watching this documentary. Thanks to you, Bethany. It was great. So this is wonderful as a resource. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. You know, I always get the people who it doesn't work for, because that's who talk to me, because most of my patrons are invisible and happy and doing what they need to do. So I love it when people tell me success stories, because of course I always hear it when it's not working. I never hear when it's working. So thank you for sharing a positive story.
Absolutely. It was just great. And that was the only place we could find this documentary, was Canopy. So thanks to you, we were able to see it. It was great.
Well, thank you. And I think that's it for me. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. And I believe I'll be leaving this meeting myself. I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Bethany. Great. Oh, another exciting program that we have here at the library is the summer reading program, item number 5 on the agenda. Mariko Whalen, Youth Services Coordinator, will discuss the launch of the summer reading program. This is an information and discussion item on the agenda. So with that, welcome Dr. Whalen.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. All right.
How do you pronounce your first name? I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's Mariko. The R is pronounced like a D.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mariko, for letting me know. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. So our summer reading program for 2021 is themed Tales and Tales. Next slide, please. And we're going to talk about a little bit about why we do summer reading. And of course, it's to emphasize that fun of reading and to keep kids reading through the summer. And we want to promote lifelong reading habits, help build some home libraries, and then of course stem that summer reading slide so that kids don't lose quite as much of their skills and abilities before they go back to school. And then of course to advance those early literacy skills. Next slide, please. So the program overview is that it starts on June 1st and goes through August 1st. Pre-registration started on May 1st. And there are 4 age groups: pre-readers, which is birth to 4, kids, which is 5 to 11, teens, 12 to 17, and adults, which are 18 and over. Next slide. So the rules for summer reading are basically you read them for 1 minute, you get 1 point when you read or do a literacy activity that counts towards the summer reading game. 1,000 points means you're an achiever or that you have accomplished all of the readings that we wanted you to do for the summer. And then we also have other ways that people can earn points, like challenges, attending some of our events, and participating in community experiences. Next slide, please. They can also earn badges, and badges are digital representations of achievements that they have earned within the game. They can earn these by reading a certain number of points, or attending virtual library events or community experiences, or completing a challenge. And kids like badges, even virtual badges. So this is a great way to motivate them to log their minutes and try some of the different things that we offer throughout the summer. Next slide, please. So for prize packs, we are going to follow the same model we did last year, and we are going to give out prize packs at the end of the program. So starting on August 2nd. The reason we are doing this is because we don't have our teen volunteers to log minutes and hand out prizes as they go. So we just don't have the manpower to do it. But we are doing some sign-up prizes. We have some animal crackers that have been handed out to patrons as they sign up in the library. And then everything we do say is while supplies last, and also prize packs may include, and this is because they are not all standard. Sometimes we get a few little extra things in there. Sometimes we don't have enough coupons to be to go to everyone. So we have to make sure we put our disclaimers in. Next slide, please. So this is what the activity sheet looks like for the pre-readers. They fill in each of the little spots on the giraffe. What's really neat is for the pre-readers, they also provide the suggestions on the left-hand side for early literacy activities. And this is everything from reading a book, singing a song, to playing and talking, because those are all literacy building skills with little ones. Next slide. So these are the incentives we have for pre-readers. We did put them out by what we would say for the point levels. If we had the teens handing them out, these are for each level, these are the prizes they would receive, but they will get all of these prizes in the prize pack at the end of the program. Next slide, please. Here's the game board for kids, a little bit more mature so that they don't feel like they're babies, of course. But if you see where it says bonus, that's where they can earn some of those badges. So it gives them different things they can do. And it can be as simple as telling a friend about the summer reading program. So that's, you know, great advertisement, and the kids are doing it for us. Next slide, please. Here's the kids incentives, a little bit different from the pre-readers, but it also includes the coupons and things like that. What's really neat is because we hand them out at the end is we've made sure that everyone gets some kind of a bag at the end so that all of the prizes can fit inside. And of course, at the end, at every level, everyone gets a free book from the county. Next slide, please. Here's our teen incentives. What's unique with the teens is we did get Chick-fil-A coupons for the teens. They're a little harder to buy prizes for because it tends to be a little bit more expensive to get things that they'd really like. So you'll see fewer prizes at the teen level, but the coupons are what they come in for. So that's what we're hoping to draw them in with. And then the next slide. Here's our adult incentives. They get the $2 off at the library shop coupon when they sign up, as well as the animal crackers, and then all of those different things that you see at each of those point levels. And we did have some extra Chick-fil-A coupons, and since they were for full meals, we decided we'd give them over to adults so that they could hand them out for the first 300 patrons that completed the program. All right, next slide. And that is me in a nutshell with SRP. And our representatives, so that you know, they helped put this presentation together, are Heather Solon-Smith from Youth Services and Michelle Vorbs Cabreas for Adult Services. And I probably butchered both their names, and I didn't mean to. Do we have any questions?
I'm watching for hands.
All right.
And I am not seeing any.
All right. Well, if any questions come up, please feel free to email me or give me a call, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Dr. Whalen, great presentation. I'm really excited about this year's reading program. You have different challenges this year, and I'm sure we're going to meet our goals with your help. So thank you for doing a great presentation. And I'm sorry that I didn't pronounce your name correctly.
Oh,
So,
you know, don't worry about that. I'm used to it. It's a Japanese name, so it's quite all right.
Thank you, Dr. Mariko Whalen. Thank you.
You did it perfectly. Thank you. All right,
Okay.
you guys have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so thank you. Bye-bye. So with that, we're going to go to the patron comments. Just a reminder, Amy sent an updated patron comment file. I'm looking here, sorry. An updated one so that we can take a look at that. The changes really were on the comment side of the library response. So with that, if you have any questions, we don't read these line by line. This is information and discussion, but we do have, I'm sorry, Mandy, will you be doing this patron comment report?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to present and discuss library patron comments in the monthly report to the board.
Yes. And I'll start by saying, I think that we can all see the theme running through the April 2021 comments are, when are we opening the libraries? When are we expanding the hours? When is Arabian opening? We continue to respond to these with the same response that we are getting from city management. We're still being fiscally conservative. So we just don't have direction to open those yet. But I mean, we are in the same mind. We would love to open these libraries, and we will do so as soon as we're able to. Also, and hoping everyone got a chance to look at the updates. I know there was one comment in particular from a patron who had a complaint about one of the staff, and I was the person who responded to that whenever it came in. It got left off of this report, so I included it there. And if anyone has questions on that one, I can address. Otherwise, we also have a lot of positive comments. Always glad to see those. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions, because I know that many of these are just, please open the libraries. And so our response doesn't really change with each one, but I do want to address any questions that the board has. And I'll look for hands.
Do you see any there?
I'm not seeing any. Our comments are pretty much along the same line as they have been. So we might have already answered questions in previous meetings.
That could be.
Yeah.
I know the staff works very hard, and there are many challenges, but I do like seeing the happy comments. Lets us know that you guys are moving in the right direction, and the community is very appreciative of your efforts. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheila.
Okay, so we're good to move on. So this is where we're going to identify the future agenda items. The library board may suggest items they wish to be placed on a future agenda, but the library board may not discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter in the identification of future agenda items unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. So this is information, discussion, and possible action for a roll call vote.
And I see, I see Marna's hand already up.
Great.
I would just like to have on a future agenda a detailed staffing review, including the proposed budget that I think or the tentative budget that was just approved. In other words, I'd like to be able to go back and see what we were pre-pandemic, the staffing levels, and what we hope to be this coming fiscal year.
Okay, I made a note of that. Anyone else?
Janet also has her hand raised.
I would like to suggest that we get a more detailed look at the details of the Pony Express. We know it's a success. What does it cost to maintain it from year to year? What would it cost to add additional libraries to it? And what happens to it if the libraries eventually reopen? How would we maintain it or justify the cost of doing it if the library becomes open? Thank you.
Okay.
Down.
Yeah.
Fred Klein also has his hand raised.
Fred?
Fred, I think you're still on mute.
Well, there, how's that?
There you go. Yeah, there you go. I can hear you.
Yeah, I would like to hear a discussion on the new material issue. I was kind of troubled to learn that these deep cuts are going to be extended, and I'd like to know what that means in terms of the function. And it would be a way that we might be able to go on record discussing this.
Okay. I got that down. Anyone else, Mandy?
Frida Hartman also has her hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I would like to suggest that it might be very helpful, since there are several of us who are new to the board this year, if we could ask to have a brief profile or presentation on each of the library branches, so that it can kind of be an introduction for us to the entire system of libraries, and we would have the opportunity to learn more about each one and maybe some unique aspects of each library, just kind of a getting to be more familiar with all of the libraries picture.
That one.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Fred just lowered his hand, so I am not seeing any other hand raises.
Okay. Great ideas, guys. I love it. Love it. Love it. So, okay. So the next item, board members' reports. So this is board members may give brief summary of current events. This is information only. The board cannot discuss or vote on items not on the agenda, including items brought up as board member reports. If discussion or action by the board is required, the item should be placed on an upcoming meeting agenda to be consistent with the Arizona Open Meeting Law. Okay, any board members to report out? Janet, I know that you attend the Friends of the Library on our behalf as our liaison.
Yes, and I'll make it very brief, I promise. I had the Friends had their monthly meeting. They now have 86 members. Their goal is 100 by the end of the year. Peggy Sharp Chamberlain challenged each of the board of directors to try to find 2 new members. And I said that I would offer that as a suggestion to every board member on the library board, that we try to actively encourage two people we know to join the Friends. So I think that might be a good summer challenge for everyone. Other than that, they're working really, really hard at fundraising opportunities. Anna Unterberg is actually taking a course on grant writing and is going to be getting together with Scottsdale Public to collaborate on some grant writing endeavors. Just so you know, they also are working on nominees for their Spirit of Literacy Awards. And there is a woman, and I just wanted to recognize her. Her name is Karen Yamasaki. She has been donating between $1,000 and $1,500 a month to the Friends. And since October, which has raised about $10,000. And I just wanted to let everybody on the board know that because she's a great patron of the library. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Mandy, anyone else with their hands raised?
Marna has her hand raised.
Thank you, everybody. I just wanted to say that I had a wonderful visit over at Appaloosa as their, I guess, board liaison. Sky and I had figured out a nice schedule. I was able to chat with Ben and Lynn and Cassie over there when I went on Monday. And it was great to go to the back of the house, so to speak, and see where everyone really gets all the tremendous work done. And I was just fascinated by being shown the machine. I don't know what it's officially called. Mandy, you'll probably know, where when you drop in a book to return it, it takes that book, it figures out where it needs to go. It finds a way to bring it back in so that immediately it's known that you've returned the book, and then it drops it in an appropriate bin. And it's something that I, for one, never even thought about. But then when you're brought into the room and you see this piece of equipment, it's so impressive that it happens immediately. And I do note that I believe Appaloosa had 17 staff, and I believe currently they have 8. That's a mix of full-time and part-time. And to see the changes that had to be made when the library branch itself had to shut down and the work was really transferred to those staff librarians that work at the drive-through, and what that meant in terms of reallocating space for holds and a lot of other changes. So it was a tremendous experience, and I just wanted to kind of report out on that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anyone else, Mandy?
Yes, and I'll just also say, Marna, the machine you described is appropriately named Disorder.
Okay. And by the way, I heard wonderful things about you in that when there was an issue of just, this is the work we have to do now, you said, okay, and your management style is, let me see it so I can understand it. And so you came out and you were able to really understand what was going on and how any changes that needed to be made could be made. So kudos to you on being a real hands-on manager. And sorry, the dog is playing with a toy. Thank you.
Thank you, Marna. Sam Campana also has her hand raised.
Right, that's me. And my ride is here. I'm so sorry. So I really enjoyed the meeting and I loved all the reports, and I'm very encouraged. The downtown mall is going to be fabulous. And I like the idea of all of us recruiting 2 new board members, not board members, friends of the library. If there's kind of a one-pager that they have that we could share around or post on social media to encourage that, I'd be real happy to share that around. Looking forward to it. And I'm going to have to sign off. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sheila, I am not seeing any other hands.
Wow, great meeting.
Hold on, one more. Janet has her hand raised.
Hi, I'll keep this short. I always say that. I just want to acknowledge and say a big thank you to both Sheila Raymond and Marna for writing an email to the council people on my behalf for my reappointment. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to being on the board for the next 3 years. Thanks.
Janet, is that meeting's on the 22nd for the official appointment? Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
No, well, I was appointed last night. My term starts as the new board member or whatever, the 22nd.
That is my oversight. I apologize because I looked at the agenda and didn't get that. So yay, welcome back.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm thrilled.
Janet, thank you. I'm so excited for you. Okay, so with that, we'll have a motion. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn today's meeting. The meeting for next month is not yet determined if it's going to be virtual or in person. We will get that information out to you soon, so stay tuned. So can I get a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
I see Marna and Fred have a hand up. Is this for the motion?
It is. I just would make a motion to adjourn the meeting after I congratulate Janet and say, we need you. So it's terrific.
Yes, we do. Can I get a second?
Fred has his hand raised, but he might be on mute.
This is Janet. I'll second. Janet Smigelski, I'll second.
Okay. And then we'll
Okay.
do a roll call vote. Chair to adjourn today's meeting. Chair Sheila Raymond, aye. Vice Chair Janet Smigelski,
Aye.
Board Member Sam Campana. I believe she had to duck out. Is that correct?
She did.
Okay. And Frida Hartman,
Aye.
Fred Klein,
Aye, and I'd like to put in a vote for an in-person meeting next month.
okay. Marna McClendon.
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. With that, the meeting today is adjourned. Thank you all for coming and have a wonderful month. Let's get back into the reading and getting people involved in the library. It's so exciting. You guys just got my blood pumping today. So good job, staff. All right. So we'll see you next month.
Thank you.